Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jeanne Gallagher, and I'm here with Denise DeGaulle. Hey, Denise.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to be talking about having a plan. Is that correct?
Yes. We are talking, we've been talking about, um, we're now well into the first part of the year, but we're still talking about resolutions and creating, that theme for the year. And so, we've got this theme, this overarching theme. That's great. What are you going to do with it? Right? So we do need to step back and create a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Why? A plan transforms a resolution into a roadmap. And let's be real. I mean, granted, it's not necessarily a paper roadmap anymore, though I do still have an atlas upstairs. If we're driving someplace, we need to know how to get from point A to point B. One, you need to know where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your theme, or the theme for the year. But where do you want to go with this theme? Right. And so you can have, where you are, where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know exactly where you want to go, that's some time to, maybe take a little bit of time to write some of those things down, journal about it. What is it that I want to accomplish with my idea of impact? How do I want to impact people? Right? How would I know that I have achieved that? What are those three things? And I always recommend three, no more than three, right? Your brain can't think of more than three, right? So I think that's really important. So you have where you are today, where you want to go. How are you going to get there? You need to have a plan. You need that roadmap. And what I think is always interesting is people like, I don't know where to start. You have to start somewhere, right? They always say the journey of 1,000 miles starts with that one step. And that one step can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. It could be the smallest little thing. So impact for me, I want to impact people in a different way. I have up-leveled the conversations I want to have with people, one with you here on Discover Rising Tides, but also on my podcast, right? I know what I used to talk about, but now how do I raise it to that next level? And I'll be honest, the other day I was kind of not solely vacillating. I was procrastinating. I knew I needed to record a couple of podcasts. I've written them. I know what I want to talk about, but why was I like procrastinating? It's that first little step. It's scary, but you know what? Once I started recording, it was me and the camera and just blah, 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 which I can do pretty well.
It is, but you're right. It is that first initial. I find that's a really great analogy for everything. I find that with my to-do list. When I start my to-do list, I look at it because I set it up the day before. So when I know that what I'm going to do is written on paper and I know, and it's numbered, I know where I'm going to start. It kind of happened this morning. I looked at it, I'm like, I don't really want to do any of that. So I have to pick something that I want to do to get me started. It's like that warm-up round. And then once I get into a groove, then I'm good. But
Yeah.
but you notice that with anything, whether it's exercise or changing your eating habits or anything that we're talking about, it's that first initial start that's hard.
Yeah. And think about it, they could be that start could be the simplest thing. So you want to lose weight, feel better, drink a glass of water, 8 ounces of water the first thing you wake up in the morning. Do you know how many people are dehydrated all day long because they don't drink enough water?
Mm.
Like 90% of people.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, that's crazy. All you need to do, start your day on the right, that right foot. When you get out of bed, 8 ounces of water. You'll actually notice how different you feel. And was that really hard? It's not really hard. It's just a matter of, like you said, like we're saying, just taking that first step. And I think, I always talk about, the plan, prepare, right? And prioritize. Prioritize and then prepare. So this is just something that we need to go back to and, prioritize. What are the three things that we want to accomplish, and how are we going to do that?
I like
That
that. And
is,
I think three things makes it simple, because when you're thinking about changing your habits and your patterns, that is so broad and it's so overwhelming, but you really have to identify it and simplify it.
yes. I think, one of the other reasons why I don't love this concept of the resolution, and I like the theme, because resolutions focus on fixing something that's not right, something that's broken, something that's wrong, right? This concept of the theme and taking the steps to get to from point A to point B in December of 2025, right? Because it's a
Mhm.
yearly theme, unless you decide to do it quarterly. I have
Mhm.
a client who's doing that. Um, it's really about growth, opportunity, and fulfillment. And
Mm.
for so many women in midlife, we are struggling with the fulfillment piece because we're taking care of everybody else. We're doing all of these other things. Now, now we just have these three things that we're going to work on for us, whatever they are, right? So it's not about fixing you. You're not broken. It's just about growing. It's about doing something a little different. Maybe it's healthier habits. Maybe it's setting better boundaries for you. Whatever resonates with you, that's going to make you feel fulfilled, feel like you have purpose, and really have control of your life. And that is really, to me, is kind of the bottom line, is feeling like you're in control.
Mm.
So build some habits that align with your values and your theme for the year, and we'll see where we go.
Wonderful. And transform that resolution to a roadmap.
Yes.
Thanks, Denise. Hello, everyone. This is Jeanne Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jeanne Gallagher, and I'm excited for you all to be here. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform and you'd like to see our happy faces, jump on over to YouTube, and we'll be there waiting for you. And make sure you click like and subscribe and all of that to help the algorithms. And so I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Cheryl Stelte. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Jean. It really, I love your show. I love what you're all about.
Thank
I
you.
just went for my walk in nature and I'm ready
Ah,
to go.
beautiful. Oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. So, Cheryl is a master healer and a spiritual coach. And before we talk about your walk and how that really affects you and all of that detail, how did you tell us about your background? Where did you start? How did you get to where you are today?
Well, I never thought I would be anything spiritual in my life. When I was a kid, none of this was ever a dream. I think I used to want to be a fashion model and then a teacher and stuck with the teacher, but definitely not a regular teacher as in elementary school, but a spiritual teacher,
Mm,
definitely. And I was raised Catholic. Meditation, spirituality were not part of my world 32 years ago. And I had a very transformative experience that set me on this path like a house on fire. I
mm,
was lying on the beach on Vancouver Island with a friend who had just learned how to do some kinesiology and energy clearing, and she was practicing on me as we were waiting for the tide to go out so we could pick oysters. And this was my first opening to spirituality. And all of a sudden, there was this giant ball of white light floating above me. And
Mm.
it just had the most immense love I had ever felt in my life. And I started crying. And I realized it was my deceased brother's spirit, my younger
Wow.
brother who had taken his life about a year before. And she was talking so fast, I couldn't tell her what was going on. And as well, I was kind of in shock. You know,
Hmm.
I'm crying. I just had tears flowing down my face. And then she said, "It's your brother, and he's here." And
Oh
I
my.
said, "I know." So that was surprising. And she ended up channeling him. And she'd never been a medium or anything of that nature before. And his message to me was to start meditating. And
Wow.
that just flung open the doors really to a spiritual journey that I couldn't have possibly imagined.
That's incredible. That's quite a story. I recently had worked with a medium, and I had never done that before. And it was a hugely emotional experience, and it wasn't anything that I had expected. And it was very impactful.
It is so impactful. And if I can add to that, you're reminding me of something.
Sure.
So I'm actually a medium. I don't
Mm.
talk about it. You're not going to see it anywhere on my website. I'm a closet medium, definitely a closet medium. I don't know why. I keep saying I'm going to come out of the closet and I don't. But uh, I do enough things. I don't need to.
You don't need to add one more, right?
Anyway, I do it for clients when it's necessary or when a spirit shows up. But
Hmm.
if I can share my first, because it was such an emotional experience, my first mediumship experience. I was teaching a lot of meditation in Vancouver, and there was a young woman that was coming to see me who was studying fashion design, and her anxiety was through the roof. And
Hmm.
she was scared she wasn't going to make it through school to get her diploma. And one of her instructors, who was a friend of mine, suggested she come and see me because therapy wasn't working for her. So I was leading her in meditations, and she texted me one day and said, "My mom's going to be in town from Edmonton. Would it be okay if she joined us for our class?" And I said, "Absolutely. That would be wonderful." Then the next day she said, "My mom's arrived and she's wondering if you could do a spiritual reading for her."
Mm.
And my automatic reaction was, "Yes, I can do that. It'll be $40 for half an hour." And I don't know where this information came from. It just sort of came out of my mouth. And I hang up I get off, it's text. And I thought, "What are you doing?" And I just got the guidance, "You can do this. It's not a problem. Don't worry about it." So I said, "Okay." So then they arrive. And before we get started, I said to the mother, "So I understand you would like a spiritual reading." And she said, "Yes, I would." And I said, "What does spiritual reading mean to you?" She said, "Oh, I want to speak with my deceased mother." And I was, "Oh, okay." And I instantly got a, "Yes, you can do this." And she said,
Wow.
"Do you do this? Can you do that?" And I said, "Yes, I can." I had no idea what I was getting into, but my body was calm. It was like I had this knowing. So we get through the class, and then I'm doing the reading, and I'm sitting there, and I get Queen Elizabeth on my right. And I keep trying to push her away. So I had sort of, I had done some readings, but I'd never called in a spirit. So I noticed if I could push something out of the way, it was my mind or I was making it up. But if I couldn't push something away, it kept coming back. I knew it was real. So kept pushing Queen Elizabeth away, and she kept coming back. And then she takes this cane and she's hitting it on the floor like, "It's me, I'm the mother." And I'm thinking, "Well, you're the queen mother." So then I asked them, I said, "Any chance your mother looked kind of like Queen Elizabeth?" And they both burst out laughing, and they said, "She not only looked like Queen Elizabeth, she dressed like Queen
Oh
Elizabeth,
my gosh.
she acted like Queen Elizabeth, and she wanted us to call her Queen all the time." And I
Oh
said,
boy.
well, then she's here. And the big question was, the mother had passed a year or two before, and the grandmother, but the mother who called the reading said her question was, they hadn't talked for a decade.
Wow.
And she was in hospice, lying beside her mother before she passed. And she said, "Did you hear me tell you how much I love you?" And
Mm.
the mother said, "No, I didn't hear you, but as soon as I left my body, I felt it."
Oh,
And we
wow.
all burst into tears. And right now I have goosebumps head to toe. I'll never forget that. And every single time I do mediumship with family, it's like that. The love
Mm.
through spirit, like you're talking about,
Mm.
is so palpable. It's undeniable.
That's amazing. What a story. Queen Elizabeth, who would have thunk that? And you can't make that up. It's not like you could have Googled her and done a whole lot of research and come up with Queen Elizabeth. That was a true receive on your part. That's
Yes, yes.
what a story. Thank you for sharing. I have a question too. I know that we're getting into your story, but I think I want to sideline because I feel like this is coming up. Um, would you mind sharing your meditation practice? Because I know after we talked yesterday, it's really an important part of you and your healing and your ability to heal others. And could you break down what that looks like? And not in super detail, but we so many people talk about, oh, I wish I had a meditation practice, or I have one, or it's really hard for me. And what does that look like for you?
Yes, nobody's asked me that
Mm,
question in that way, and I love it. And so if it's okay, if I can explain it while leading a meditation, so we can make
yes.
this
Oh,
kinesthetic,
let's
would
do
that
that.
work for you?
Oh,
Okay, let's
sure.
let's do that. So I invite you, Jean, and everyone
Mhm.
listening at home to sit up nice and straight wherever you are. The ideal is on a kitchen or dining room chair, not leaning back against the back, but sitting straight with your feet flat on the floor, and put your hand on your lower abdomen. So your thumb right at the level of your navel. And so you put your hand there, and that's where we're going to breathe. We're going to stop breathing in the chest. You can relax your shoulders. And first off, you can notice where you breathe. This is important, and I'm going to explain why. And don't worry about catching this or trying to record it. I'm going to include a link to some free meditations for you. So don't worry. Let's just have an experience here and I'll explain. So notice how you breathe in your body. Where do you breathe? In your chest, in your upper chest, in your diaphragm, or lower down. Very few of us breathe lower down. So now let's breathe with the lower abdomen. So I invite you to use your inhale really nice and slow and let your belly expand. So we're just focusing on breathing in the belly, and then you squeeze your belly and expel all the air. And I had moved into this early in my meditation practice, even though I wasn't taught, because I grew up in Alberta and I learned that the long, full breath stopped me from shivering in the cold. I learned that as a kid, and my body would automatically start doing this once I started meditating. So I eventually quit trying to stop it from doing it. So you exhale, and you would like to count 6 or 8 seconds on the inhale and 6 or 8 seconds on the exhale. And so I invite you to practice this, and I'll explain what happens in the brain. And this has been my practice for many years, except for when I went to India for 4.5 months. I did upward meditation. But what happens as we do this, it changes the brain function. As soon as you engage your abdominal muscles with your breathing, it changes the breathing from the back of the brain, the brainstem, the medulla oblongata, to the frontal lobal brain, and it frees up the brainstem, which gives you access to your subconscious, the right brain. So you want to access your subconscious. This is not about getting rid of all thoughts. This isn't just for relaxation, although it calms your sympathetic nervous system, stimulates your vagus nerve, does all sorts of things. So you keep doing this. And then a good place to focus, two chakras. One is the heart chakra or the root chakra. And in all my programs, I have various transformational programs. We always start in the root chakra. So choose a chakra. The root chakra is the tip of the tailbone. And this is where the bulk of our problems are. This is where the bulk of our subconscious blocks are, where we learn to not feel safe and stable in the world. And the heart chakra is just the hub of all the chakras, so it's generally a good place to focus. And you can do a lot of great things. I can tell immediately when people work on their heart chakra, but they can still have wounds in the root. So you can breathe there. And then I invite you to, if you want to do some healing, let's just dive in. So my meditations are all about being and healing and empowerment. So being present. What are you noticing right now? Any sensations in your body? Any emotions? Keep the full breath going. Feels like a workout at first, but it's so good for you. And then you can think of maybe something that's really bothering you from the present or even the past, or maybe you're worried about something in the future. And what's the emotion you're feeling? And allow yourself to feel that emotion with the breath. Because our subconscious blocks are all repressed emotions. And we learn early on to hold back some of our emotions, if not all of them, to stuff them, to avoid them. And science has now proven that trauma, all our wounding, is encoded in the right side of the brain, the subconscious, through physical sensations and emotions, not through linear memories. So even if you've experienced severe trauma, sexual abuse, torture, abandonment, anything, the memories are not that important. They're very superficial. Science has also proven that it's not so much about what happened, it's the lingering feelings of uncertainty in life that you're left with. Those feelings of not feeling safe, the self-doubt. So we breathe through whatever emotion rises up for you. And that's, you learn to access what's going on, accessing what's in the subconscious. And then you can do what I call follow the emotional thread. And you can drop down into an even deeper emotion. So let's say you're feeling anger or fear. You can drop down with the exhale. It's like you're falling through that emotion into a deeper emotion underneath that emotion. And you can breathe into that. So every time you breathe through an emotion, you're clearing it, you're releasing it from your system. So you keep breathing into the emotion, and you can keep doing that. I could lead a 45-minute meditation if you wanted, or 20. So you keep following that down, and then you can invite yourself to go back in your subconscious to when this emotion first began, the deepest one you get to, which is often confusion, shame, a deeper sense of fear, trapped, that sort of thing. When did it first begin? And if you just follow the breath on the exhale, your subconscious will take you back to when it first began. And I find all the patterns, the deepest patterns that are getting in our way the most, began by the age of 2, and often in the womb. So you can ask your subconscious that, and then you breathe through it. You let yourself become that younger version of you. You don't have to know the exact age, but you'll get a sense of it. Because remember, it's not the memory. It's the physical sensations and emotions. So any physical sensations you feel, welcome them. That's your body releasing the wounds. That's your body releasing the blocks. And the deeper layer is the emotions. And then we can go through sort of a little bit of a reparenting technique. That's the empowerment, to let your younger self know that you didn't deserve it. Whatever happened wasn't your fault, that the people around you were wounded. You did nothing wrong. So it's disarming the younger self. And then you can reparent as the adult you are, still using the full breath. Reparent your little self, loving them up, telling them how lovable they are, and then watch the younger self's emotions change. And this is where you get the clarity of who you are, why you're here, and what you're about. And eventually your true calling is you continue to go deeper. And as the little one, you start to access more of your soul and your inner truth. So that's it in a nutshell. And then whatever you discover in your younger self, the truth that maybe you're meant to be free, or maybe it's this knowing that you're a bright, shining light and you're meant to have fun, whatever it is, then you want to meditate on that and repeat that. And it reprograms your subconscious by taking advantage of the brain's neuroplasticity. So you're creating new energy pathways that go through your brain, and you're abandoning those old highways, the neural pathways in the brain. You abandon the old ones. They're like highways. It's like being on a freeway. You automatically use those. So you quit using those and you start to form new neural pathways. And that's the type of meditation I
Wow.
teach, and I've been practicing
Thank
for a
you.
very long time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very intentional.
Yes.
Wow. Fantastic. I
Yes.
feel calmer.
And I'm sorry.
I feel calmer.
Awesome. Awesome. And the thing is, you need your brain. You need that subconscious brain will speak to you just like it's a left brain, but it's not. So those thoughts are very important. I've
Mm-hmm.
never bought into the letting go of all thoughts. It's never worked for me because I can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
It's
most
one of the
people.
things that I've always struggled with too. And I've been practicing yoga for 20 years, I think, anyways. And um, I'm always challenged with that piece because the brain, it's very difficult. The more you focus on your breath, the easier it allows you to not focus on the thoughts as much. However, they do reoccur, and even if you're trying to let them float away, they don't. But what your practice is to acknowledge them and utilize those as a tool.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And, with respect to breathing into our blocks,
Hmm.
the repressed emotions and our wounding and our trauma, it's I do a lot of chakra readings, many chakra readings, and I don't see the chakras the way you typically see them, with the mandalas or the lotus flowers and petals and everything and all the colors. I see them as energy centers, as light.
Mm.
Kirlian photography has proven we're made of light. And I see the blocks as black. They're like black balls or lumps or blobs or that sort of thing. And it's where the energy is not flowing. So when you're
Mm.
breathing into any kind of wound or stuffed emotions, you're breathing into literally where the energy is not flowing because it's stuck in there. And the more intense, the bigger the
Okay.
block is. So you feel it when it frees up. And
Mm.
and so whenever I work with people, I do always do a longer chakra reading in the beginning and then one at the end. So at the end, I can let them know about all the progress that they've made and then give them homework meditations and practices to do later on. And it's really about teaching people how to become their own energy workers.
Oh, interesting. That is, and it is, you're creating a skill that they can carry into their own personal practice and not dependent upon you, and it gives them an opportunity to expand that themselves.
That's right. That's right. And I would say by far the majority of people I work with are already spiritual. They've
Hmm.
already meditated. They've done all sorts of different things, and yet they're feeling unfulfilled. They know that they're meant for more. Um, and I just help them break through to their true calling, to that deeper understanding of themselves. And because, self-realization is God realization or source realization, whatever words that you want to use. And so it's helping them go to that next level
Hmm.
that whatever they've used before, it can't get them there.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing, and thank you for leading us all through that
Oh,
super helpful meditation.
my pleasure.
Now, as a what is a master healer?
How do I can't believe I call myself that sometimes because I used to have this sort of unworthiness issue and imposter syndrome, and it was even hard to own the label of healer, that title. And I own Master Healer. There is nothing that I can't help. There isn't anything that I can't help anybody heal. And I just have so much experience. You know, I
Mhm.
had so much to heal in myself. I'm still not finished. I've studied multiple modalities and developed my own certification program. So I teach people how to do what I do. And all the clients of mine that have done a ton of work, they all say the same thing. Cheryl, nobody goes deeper than you. I go
Mm.
deep. I get, we can get into the womb even at the moment of inception. We can heal anything.
That's very, how does that work? How are you able to access that, or how are people able to delve into those, their historical happenings, performance, wounds, whatever terminology you want to encapsulate that with? How are you able to lead them through that process?
Well, it's number one, being very in tune. So I do all my work now online because we're all one. There
Mhm.
really is no separation. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You could be in South Africa. Uh, and so when I work with people, they're lying down. So I'm not leading them in meditations. They're lying down so
Mhm.
they can be as relaxed as possible. And then I lead them and guide them on the way. So we always start with a current event, something that's, you know, in the forefront that they want fixed or they want to feel better about it, that sort of thing. And it's using the, you know, the basis of the meditation I just led. So that practice, but I'm guiding the person and I feel the energy, I'm in tune. So I don't tell them, oh, you're feeling this, or oh, it's that, or that sort of thing, even though I get a lot of information. I allow them to discover it. And people rarely, I've probably had maybe half a dozen, at the most 10 people who go back to the womb right in the first session. That's very,
Mm.
very rare. And those are usually very evolved people, or they're extremely desperate. They are so desperate for change, it's life or death.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so being desperate for change is really beneficial.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it because it's an inner motivation, it's energetic, and you will get big results when you're desperate. It's amazing. So I help to guide them safely
Mhm.
without them, you know, moving up into the bell curve, if you know that psychology term. You don't want to go into a frightened, really frightened state or anything like that. And then it's they're always amazed at what happens, what it's like to be floating in the womb. They often get in there and they can feel infants, and it's, you know, there's research, it's very little definitive research done on what happens with the womb, in the womb with the fetus, but they're starting to see that fetuses actually feel and they take on the mother's emotions. And
Mhm.
it's physiological what's going on. I mean, you're literally connected, the fetus at the umbilical cord to the mother, you know, getting her blood and everything. So they go back, and I have had some, the moment of inception. I had one client reminds me, oh my gosh, the moment of inception, she knew it was going to be a rocky, rough pregnancy, and she wanted to turn around and go back.
Mm.
Didn't want to come in, and there was trauma right out of the gate. And that was challenging. And she was in her early 70s, and she said, you know, I always felt like I wasn't really supposed to come through. And
Interesting.
she healed that after all these years. She was inspired to start this nonprofit. The family house, her mother had finally died at the age of 97. And she had all these great plans for that land. And she just was motivated to contribute to humanity in ways she never had after that.
Mm.
It's just startling, the shifts and how she healed her extremely dysfunctional relationship with her mother before her mother passed.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
What a gift you gave her.
Well, that she received
She,
herself. She got it. Yeah.
yes. And that you led her through. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so you use different modalities.
Yes? Or how does that work?
Mostly I
Kind of.
use I use my own Azarias Energy Healing program, and I offer a certification program in that. So I teach people to do what I do. And then sometimes I have to do other things. So
Hmm.
sometimes it involves mediumship, sometimes it involves shamanism, sometimes I
Hmm.
have to do a soul retrieval. Sometimes I need to get rid of spirits in their home. I mean, I can do a lot of things. And
Hmm.
so there's other things that I do, uh, but the healing is I would say primarily 95%. The actual healing is with what I do, and yet it's part of the journey is sometimes other skills are developed along the way where I'm guided and then I'm kind of blown away and I say, wow, I've never done that before. That was brand new. Wow. But all of that is encompassed in the Azarias Energy Healing Program because it's not so much me doing that work, that type of energy healing. The practitioners are in an altered state. You're in a much higher vibration and allowing your spiritual guides and spirit to flow through you. So it's fabulous being the practitioner as well. I don't ever get tired. Like people say, you can do that many in a row and you don't get tired. No, it's very energizing.
Mm. So, how did you develop this program, the Azarias Energy Healing Program?
It just sort of unfolded from multiple modalities and just doing energy healing for so long, and practicing, it just comes through. So just shifting things, and it's not that uncommon with healers that have been healing for over 30 years. Most of them say, well, I just kind of do my own thing because
Hmm.
you just learn how to move energy in the best ways. And you notice you get there's certain questions you ask, there's a certain type of engagement, certain rituals, certain way to end it, all that just all seems to fit together. So I'm sort of in that category. That's why I say master, because I've learned so many modalities, developed my own, and it's still developing.
Mm, interesting. And when people, what's the trigger for people to say, I really need to talk to Cheryl. I think that she can help me through something. How do people realize that they're in a spot or in a situation that could benefit from your help?
Thank you. Yeah. They they're feeling unfulfilled. They're feeling stuck. What used to make them happy isn't making them happy. They might be feeling flat, but say they have their own, I work with a lot of business people, their business just isn't doing for them what it used to. And they know that there's more. They know they're meant for more, but they don't know what it is. They just lack the clarity. They wish they knew. They don't know how to move forward. Everything they try is just not cutting it. And so they're kind of desperate for change. It's like I've got to do something. I can't continue like this. And it's often a particular level with spiritual people in that they get to the one and only true dark night of the soul, where nothing is fulfilling in the same way and life kind of starts to fall apart, and they're moving into the next stage, which is unity consciousness. And that's what I'm a master at, helping people get to. So then all of a sudden their lives really shift. I had one client, Tanya, who in her last session before her last chakra reading, I said, so what's your intention? I'm all about intention. And she said, this just feels too good to be true. She said, is this real? What can you tell me about what's going on with me? I'm just living in a way now that just feels too good to be true. So, and that's kind of what it feels like. It's life really shifts because it's when you become a master at something, when you become really good at something, and you've learned everything you've been meant to learn, and it just doesn't do it for you. And it's a time of unlearning, a time of surrender, a time of allowing, and you can't force it. And you really, most people by far need someone to help them through that phase. And those are really the people I help. So they're already spiritual, but they're feeling unfulfilled and life is not where they want it to be. They know there's more for them.
Interesting. And you have written 2 books and you have a new book coming out, yes?
I have 3 books. My new book is out. I just don't
Okay.
have it on my shelf right
Oh,
now.
okay.
So yeah, that's From Block to Powerful, the spiritual guide to unlocking inner clarity and authentic power. And authentic power, I know those words are used a lot, authentic
Hmm.
and power, and even using them together. But I just have to tell you, when I do group energy healings, it's always so interesting if it's a session on power
Hmm.
and what power is for women. They all have these words and these descriptors of how they want to feel and all that. And then when it's all done, power is peace, power is calm,
Mm.
power is calm, power is
Mm.
quiet. And that's the divine feminine power that we're all here to be in.
And you use the feminine as the adjective, and that totally makes sense versus a more masculine power.
Yes.
Yes, I like how you describe that because that's easy to understand or understand the impact of that and what that can do for you, for people.
Yes.
Interesting. So this has been a fascinating conversation. And a bonus, we were able to be walked through a beautiful meditation. So I didn't even that wasn't on the bingo card today.
No.
So thank you so much for that, Cheryl. How do people get in touch with you and reach out if they'd like to spend some time with you?
Well, one of the easiest ways is just click the link in the show notes and sign up for the meditations, and then you'll have that, and you'll be on my email list. Um, the other way is you can go to my website,
Mhm.
starofdivinelight.com. So all one word, starofdivinelight.com, and you could click on an insight session, so you get one psychic hit if you have a question, and we can talk, and I can help you understand your situation better, maybe give you some tips and that sort of thing. Chakra reading. There's a lot of resources there. You can find a lot of information. And I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Sarah, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much for your time and sharing everything that you do with us and the listeners. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. It's really a joy to connect with you, Jeanne, and be a part of your mission.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.